I'm excited.
I know I'm a couple minutes early, so we could just chat and with the five other people who are here. Hi,
Turn on my
I
mic.
recognize some of these names.
My cameras.
It turns out I didn't think I even had Discord, and it turns out I downloaded it, I don't know when, but I have had it for years. So yay, it was very
Uh,
easy.
well, that makes things a lot easier. All
Yeah.
right, I'll give people a couple minutes to join up,
Hmm.
and then we'll get this show on the road.
Guys, thank you for joining.
Yeah, this will be fun. This will be cool. I have a
It's
whole
already fun. It's
a whole
already
ton of questions, and then if we get through them, we can ask for even more questions.
fun. I'll do my best. There are just some questions I won't be able to answer. I'm just going to set up everyone's expectations from the beginning. Um, but I will do my best. I will try. I like answering questions. I once did a school visit a while ago now for the first of my explorers books, and I was doing a tour through the states. And I did my presentation plus Q&A, which usually is like 45 minutes to an hour. After that, we kept doing question and answer, and I think we did it for another full hour. We just did question. I think the teachers didn't want to do the next class, like they were using me as kind of a babysitter, but I didn't mind. I
That
didn't mind.
sounds so much fun.
It's very fun. I love hopefully, I mean, I haven't done an in-person class visit since COVID. I've done some virtual stuff, but hopefully can start going in person to schools again. I got one hair that's doing the thing.
My voice is good. All right, hang on.
Is my voice okay?
Sounds good to me.
Okay,
Just
that's
gotta
good.
make sure my. I'll see if the others agree. They seem to.
Thank you.
It might be my microphone.
It's neat seeing all the little avatars pop up. Ooh, we have a hornet. That makes me very happy. I'm a big, well, clearly I'm a huge fan. Hollow Knight, geez, I couldn't remember the name. I'm like, yeah, clearly I'm a huge Hollow Knight fan. Hi.
Oh,
So,
I have a friend who would adore to hear that.
wait, I have to get my Hollow Knight. That was like,
You have one. Oh, Sketch, you're just in time
sorry,
for
sorry,
the Hollow
sorry,
Knight.
sorry.
Oh, that's adorable.
It's so cute. I think that's why I'm so I think I mean, the gameplay is incredibly difficult, but I think the music's beautiful. I think the whole game is one of the most beautiful games, but he's so cute. And the way that he doesn't speak, but everyone else speaks, and he just stands there and looks up and his cape flaps,
Oh.
and they're like, ah, you are the most noble knight who has ever knighted in the history of knights. And he's just like, I just think he's so you. Anyways, I don't know whether he was a holiday or a birthday or random present from my husband, but I love him. Okay, you can hang out with love him. Okay. Boris and Bendy. There you go.
Oh,
There we go.
the perfect trio.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, I'm doing some final little setup bits, and then I think we can get this started. I would say.
That sounds good. And people can come and you said you were recording as well, right? So
Yes.
so if people who have missed it or who asked their questions but aren't here,
Yeah.
and
And then
hopefully I can answer.
and it'll all be saved up, and it'll all be great. Where is my funny link to the server event? while I grab my links, of which I have many. Um, First of all, just thank you for joining. I'm so excited about this.
I'm so excited about this. Thank you for hosting and organizing and doing all of this. It's crazy. You guys make me all teary. It's ridiculous, but it's very nice.
It's an honor. All right, I cooked. I would say I cooked. I
Oh,
would
I'm
say that
noticing. Oh,
was Adrienne.
okay. I see. I can show chat. Oh, can Adrienne see chat? LOL. Now I can.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I sound fine.
All right. I would say, yeah, I'd say we can get started right away, unless there's anything else.
I'm ready. I'm ready when you guys are. I'm very happy.
All right. Then let's get right into it. I've got a whole channel full of questions, and I can just start, I guess, reading them off.
Great.
All right. First runner up is from Henry Does the Writing, who's in chat right now. And we got, what advice do you have for someone who wants to do what you do for a living, and how did you get started in the industry?
Oh boy. All right. So since you're in the chat, Henry, I just want to add some clarifying questions. What do you mean writing? And do you mean specific to writing the video game books, or do you mean just being an author in general? Now I'm realizing my writing. Yes. Okay, cool. That's what I thought you meant. Advice. So the first question was advice, and the second one, how? Um, So I've been in the arts for forever. I started off as, well, I still am an actor, but I started off as a drama major in school. I went to an art school from like the age of 11, basically onwards. I majored in theater and stuff in university, and then I went to England and studied it. So I've always had like the arts sort of just like blah, um, as my existence. And one of the things that I tend to tell people is you really, really have to be genuinely very passionate about it. If there's anything else in the world you love as much or even a tiny bit more, do that. Because being in the arts is it's very difficult, and it can be very demoralizing, and it can be so I have a thin skin. I have never grown a thick skin. I have tried over the years. I cry at the drop of a hat. Everything makes me emotional, which I think is probably, honestly, good quality to be both a writer and an actor. But at the same time, it means that things like, oh, I don't know, rejection, just like woomph, hits you pretty darn hard. So and I genuinely believe that even if you are incredibly sensitive like me, as long as you just have, like, I really want to do this and I want to push through and I want to learn from people, but I also believe in myself, you can do it. So I don't want anyone to think that if they're not sort of like this real tough sort of, I don't care what anyone thinks, that those are the only types of people who can be in this industry. It's not about how you feel. It's about how you process. It's about how you carry on after things don't work out and stuff. But that sounds like the whole thing is very negative, and I apologize. I just like to be very clear that anyone can do this. You should do this if you want to, but understand that it is an emotional roller coaster and at times incredibly demoralizing. The industry, if I'm just going to be very boring and about market and industry and not artsy or anything, it changes month by month, what people are looking for, what people are interested in publishing, what's on trend. And you can't really, especially as a writer, write to trend, because most books, the publishing schedule for a book is usually you sell a book and then 18 months from there it gets published. So anything that might be trendy now in a book, that was bought 18 months earlier. So you can't write to a trend. You can't do anything. You just have to stay true to you. So it can be really frustrating when you're working on something and then suddenly you're getting ready to sell it and everyone's like, we're so done with vampires. Nobody wants a vampire. And you're like, but I have a vampire book. So that's frustrating. Alternatively, I don't believe that anybody knows what they want story-wise until they read it. So they might say they're not looking for something, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't keep at what you're writing, because oftentimes that's exactly, they go, oh, I didn't realize I wanted this. So I think I'm nattering on all over the place. My point is, do it if you love it. Listen to people who know what they're talking about. Take on advice. Discard anything that doesn't work for you. And just keep swimming, right? Just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Just keep going. But learn, make sure you're not, see, I'm going all over the place. Make sure you're not, you have to have the confidence in yourself, but make sure it's not arrogance. You have to like what you're doing, but you have to trust that others might have a good insights as well, I guess. The second one was, that was sort of like advice for being a writer, which I think we might have to come back to again, because I feel like that was all a mess. The second one was how. There are so many ways to become a writer. It's insane, especially now. Obviously, you can self-publish if you like, but I find very, very difficult, and you have to understand how to be your own publisher as well as a writer, which is it's so much stuff. But to be published by a publisher, the most tried and tested way is getting an agent. So submitting to agents, writing query letters, which is sort of a little short synopsis of what your book is about, and choosing an agent that you feel will suit your book, and then sending the first few chapters along with that. And then once you have an agent, they send the book out to publishers. It's so much rejection, guys. I am not, that sounds so, just get an agent and then get published. Like, that's all you do. It's honestly infuriating. I have some friends who have had agents and are published authors and are gifted writers, currently looking for new agents and wanting to pull their hair out. And these are people who already have, a bibliography. It's an incredibly difficult thing to do, but it is a nice, straightforward path. I will give the advice I always give, which is if you are looking for a publisher or an agent or both, if you're looking for both, do agent first, obviously. You never pay to play. There's a saying, money flows towards the author. So if an agent or a publisher or an editor ever asks you to pay them for the privilege of publishing you or to agenting you or anything, that's a scam. You will, of course, if you're self-publishing, have to invest in your book, but that's different because you're your own publisher. So you're investing the money. Agents make money once they sell your book. Publishers make money, again, when they sell your book. That's hopefully they like you and they like you as an author, but also their incentive to push you is that they get money after the book is sold. How does one get an agent? As an actor, I'm just jumping in because I just saw that, even though I know we have an order of questions. That one is sort of similar. It's headshots and resumes as opposed to query letters and first 3 chapters. I actually think getting an agent as an actor is way more annoying, because if they're interested, they'll say, hey, could you send me your demo reel? Or, hey, can you come in for an audition? But you haven't shown them your acting with a headshot and a resume, right? It's like, this is what I look like. This is what I've done. Whereas as a writer, even your query letter, even your subject line in your email, that's your writing. You can sort of audition right from the beginning. Whereas as an actor, they're just judging you from the beginning. And even if you haven't acted yet, so I find it tough. Anyways, I don't want to, I realized I answered a question I should. So Joe, take it away. Did that answer the question, Joe?
That absolutely answered the question. There seems to be a
Okay,
lot more going on.
I am going to get
moment.
better. I'm very excited. So I'm nattering, but I will be like more like zen.
All right.
Let's let's do the next one. Bendy.
Next
Bendy
question from the same person. Henry does the writing. We got, how much control do you have coming up with the plots and characters from the Bendy books? Does theMeatly come to you with an idea beforehand? Or are you,
So for generally, I mean, yeah. So generally, the way it has worked. So the first book was marginally different, and I'll explain that. But generally, theMeatly has sort of a semblance of an idea, and then I take that sort of German of an idea, and then I write an outline of, I'm like, all right, then let's make it this, and send it back to him, and then he'll be like, yes or no, or this works, this doesn't work, sort of thing. It's funny with Fade to Black. I had a completely different idea, a completely separate thing, and he was like, "No." I'm like, "Okay," and I actually super agree with that. No, because I think Fade to Black. I love Fade to Black, and I'm very happy with it. And clearly, he was too, because that was the second outline I sent. Dreams Come to Life is sort of a funny one because I was approached. So they approached Scholastic, who approached my agent, who then said, hey, you interested? And I'm like, yes, I'm interested. And they had this kind of idea that they wanted a YA book. That was the first thing, a young adult book. And that was all I was told at the very beginning before I said yes. I sort of was like, I don't know why I took time to think about it. I should have just said yes right away. But, I had to audition. I'm not sure if I made that clear. There were other authors who were asked, so it wasn't just me. So as I was thinking about it, I started brainstorming in my head. Well, they want it YA. They want it said, want YA. They want it said it at the studio while the studio was still around. and I was like, okay, so young adult, they have to be a teenager, so maybe they could be an apprentice. And since this is all about animation, surely he should be in art, like it should be about art. Yeah, so I'll make him around 17, an art apprentice at the studio. And so after I said, yeah, I'd love to audition for this, they sent more of what they were interested in, which again wasn't that much, but it was almost verbatim they were like, we're thinking maybe like 17-year-old, they could be like an apprentice at the studio doing art. I was like, oh my God, okay. I have to get this. We are clearly like that. So yeah. So generally there's like a sense of where they want, like an umbrella kind of thing. And then I give an outline, and then they have to okay everything. And then of course with drafts of the book, they also go over everything.
That's awesome.
If that answers the question.
I would say.
Well, my cat is looking interested in all this. He might come join us in a moment. Next question. I'm so sorry. Let's do the next question.
All right. The next question, I'm reading this. I'm wondering if you're going to be able to answer it.
Oh, okay.
It's obviously, we've said before, but perfectly fine if there are questions here that you cannot answer or have to veto. This one says, it's the last question from Henry Does the Writing, is, will we ever see Constance again the way we're reacquainted with Dot in Fade to Black?
That's a good question for which I do not have an answer. I'm sorry. You're right. You were right.
All right. That is A-okay. All right. And moving on, we have a question
like Constance. I like her too.
From Raven Anime, we have, hey Adrienne, I was wondering, when you write the Rose character, did you have in your head the idea of her being autistic or autistic coded? I'm autistic myself, and the way Rose mind worked kind of reminds me of the way that I think as well.
Yeah, no, sorry, I said yes. No, is the general answer. It's interesting because I sometimes do get these sorts of questions, and I wrote her very much like me, and I, from my understanding, am not, but I do think that sometimes the way I think, I have things in common, and I do have, several friends who are on the spectrum themselves, and I don't know, maybe I just enjoy that manner of thinking. But no is the answer. It's not purposeful, but I do get with other books I've written that as well, and it makes me honestly very happy because A, I like when the books speak to people, but B, I like that, because sometimes the character. Whoa, sorry. Sorry, somebody put a gif of a cat into the chat, and it's just so big in the chat, and it was like an actual like Bendy like game jump scare. Like it was like, oh my God, but he's so cute. Sorry. Anyway, my point is simply, I'm always very, very happy when something speaks to you. The answer is no, it was not on purpose, but I'm not sort of surprised that you do see that, because there are some ways that sometimes I think that I have in common. So I hopefully that makes sense. Sorry, Raven, does that make sense? If you're here, I thought you were here. I'm not sure if you're actually.
I think Raven's here.
Oh, there. I think they're typing. Okay, good. Right. Sorry, I was so floored by that. By that. All right. Jump scare.
All right. Now
I'm glad you're still happy. Actually, one thing I do like to talk a bit about is how, and I know that lots of you guys do your own writing and your own creative stuff. I recommend the more specific you are with your characters and story, the more universal, weirdly, it becomes. If we try to appeal to everybody and all ways of it that everybody thinks and all the decisions, it becomes sort of wishy-washy, and people go, okay, yeah, I guess. But somehow I find the more specific you make your characters, I don't know, the more human and the more we relate, even if it's not 100% us, we still see the humanity in that. So I highly recommend when you're working on something, don't try to please everyone. Really try to just find what excites you and the nuances of the characters and location and plot that's, I don't know, that matters to you, and it will it'll filter down, hopefully it will filter down to other people. So I highly recommend. Okay,
So
next.
awesome to hear. All right, and then here we go with the next one. This one's from Alicia Michelle. We got a couple questions, which is, what's your favorite scene or dialogue lines that you've written in your Bendy books?
Uh,
This one might be a hard one.
well, we're going to be here now for a bit. My favorite, one of my favorite scenes, which I know a lot of people like, so it just made me feel so happy in Dreams Come to Life, is the scene at the restaurant where Joey makes Buddy pay. Because it's just like there's so many degrees of evil for this guy, but that just feels like, are you kidding me? Like, seriously, dude? It's just so, it's weirdly like, you know, he basically kills people, but no, that's the mean thing. That's one step too far. I also, because it's set at Sardi's, I don't know if any of you have been to New York or are familiar, but it's a very famous restaurant in New York, or very like Broadway and theater people, and it's got pictures on the wall of all these people, and it's a really cool location too. So that one in Illusion of Living, I was going to say one, but now I realize I like a lot. Anything with Abby makes me very happy. I like the elves and the shoemaker section at the very beginning of that book, because I feel like there's just, it so informs the Illusion of Living concept. And then I've always wanted to write a murder mystery, and I have never successfully done that because they're hard. So my little murder mystery interlude, where Joey gets to, you know, sort of help solve them. It makes me very happy. Lost Ones. It's a lot. The problem with Lost Ones, some of my favorite stuff in that is like spoilery. I won't do a spoiler. This is going to sound weird that this is one of my favorite bits in the Lost Ones because it's really brutal. I don't know. There's something about Bill knocking himself out that night because he's so like everything's starting to affect him, and he tries to drink something and that doesn't work, so he knocks himself out on the wall. I just think it's so brutal. It's so awful to say I like it, but I'm just like that is so brutal. Adrienne, what the heck? There was something about that was so visceral that I think anytime the three of them, which isn't that often, unfortunately, the three of them are together, makes me very happy. I just think they have a really fun dynamic. And in Fade to Black, I mean, I think so. I really enjoyed so with Fade to Black, the party scene where we're Nathan Arches, you know, which is, you know, I tried to make it as much dreams come to life when you go to Wilson's house. Like I tried to, you know, and I just sort of tried to almost recreate that sort of vibe. So I mean, thank you to, I guess, theMeatly for that. I think the whole party through to Joey firing again. Sorry, spoilers, Evan. I just find really weird. Oh, also because Papa D appears is like I just love that whole sequence because it's like a party, so you get to have people dressed pretty, and that's great. And then we get to see Allison, and she's amazing. And then Papa D's in the corner being bitter because I would totally be Papa D. Like I would be the one in the corner. It's like I don't know anybody here. Just stay here so I can eat the food because this is not enough food. And then going upstairs, the infamous cameo, and then Evan and the Evan and Joey showdown, like all of that sequence just makes me happy. But then right after we get the bit with the subway, again, I don't want to, I guess we are spoiling it, but you know, with Archie, so that's also, I love it. Oh, see guys, when you're a writer, you like kind of all the stuff that it's funny. You are very passionate about the things you create, and at the same time you can read it back and be like, oh, why did I write it like that? So you can both be very like, oh, I shouldn't have said it like that, or oh, I should have done a different sentence, or oh, that doesn't make sense. But at the same time you're like, I love this whole section, you know. So it's complicated, but I think that probably answers the question way more in depth because it's one of those things where I can't just choose just one. So obviously I have to. By the way, we can go longer. I realize I'm answering every question for like 15 minutes. So it's my fault. So if you guys want to hang out for longer, we can. If you can't, that's fine too. Next, please, Joe. I apologize.
All right. No, you're good.
Sorry,
I'm in
I'm
no
just
rush.
nattering, guys.
Um, all right, let's see. Hang on, I lost my spot. Oh no, there we go. All right, still from Alicia Michelle, we've got. I can't really read it. What do you think the violinist would be like as an ink creature or person in the studio?
Oh, that would be very, very cool. I mean, obviously, like I'm thinking in Lost Ones territory, right? She would be. I don't know. Okay, so like there's something about her that this is like this. Like I feel like don't you feel like there's something kind of flowy about it? So I almost feel like you would there would be like flowing and then materializing and then disappearing and then sudden like I don't know, almost more like nah, I think Ghost Girl is more like but like just sort of like flowy and maybe because I'm thinking of the sound of like the music of a violin, right? Just that haunting. And obviously, wherever she goes, you would hear the violin first, and you'd be like, "Oh, damn!" I don't know. That's how I, in my head, see it. I don't know how you guys would see it.
That would be so scary to hear a violin creeping up on
I
you, and then
know.
this ink
It's
creature
already,
comes up.
yeah. Ugh.
All
It's
right,
already used as that. Yeah.
and then we got the third and final question from Alicia Michelle is. I think you did a very good job portraying the traits of someone with a traumatic background like Rose when she was walking quietly, people pleasing. So, how much research do you do when writing characters with various different backgrounds and personality traits?
Oh, a lot. I try to do as much as possible. I think with some mental health stuff because I have anxiety and some depression myself personally. So this is why I always like to have something mental health related generally in stuff I'm writing. Um, I feel like I have already sort of a wealth of knowledge that I just come with. But I do. I mean, this is not just obviously with the characters with a time period. I do a great deal. A lot. I also try. It's one of those things where you also don't want though a character to. Again, goes back to the specificity and the universality of specificity. Um, that I don't want a character to be necessarily representing something. I still want them to be a three-dimensional human. So I think it's important to just first and foremost understand the character, and then you're like, well, if they've had this traumatic experience, has that informed this particular human? It might inform a different human differently, that sort of thing. With Fade to Black, there's a great deal of discussion of PTSD, especially with her, but with the dad. And with that, we actually Scholastic did have a sensitivity reader read it over just to make sure that we were that that I had that the due diligence I had done was accurate and yeah and they said yes it was good. So but yeah, you want to just I'm not sure if people know what a sensitivity reader is. They're for different. It depends what kinds of books you're writing and what the characters are and what the situation is. But you can do a lot of due diligence and research, but it's always nice to reach out to somebody who might have direct experience with what you're writing. And often, before it became something that was actually a job that people were hired to do, you as an author would reach out yourself to people, and I still do that. I still reach out to some people. I just reached out to somebody who I know hunts, because in one of my books I had uh, the Outcast. They were using guns, and I was like, it's an odd sensitivity reader, but like, would you mind reading this? I don't use guns in any way, shape, or form. Is this accurate? And so so we do that. I mean, I've also done it with people, and I've had in my second Explorers book there was I was referencing a tribe in Australia and Queensland, and so I reached. That's how great the internet is. I reached out across the world, and this woman from that tribe helped me out and stuff. So it's really great. But now because I think people are talking about it more, and I think that's a really good thing. Publishers actually have people, like they hire people and bring them on, and that's what the term sensitivity reader. That's a job title essentially. That's what that is. Yes, they are so important. I agree with Dandelion. Yeah. and Clover. So I don't see all. I apologize if I've missed something that somebody said. I glance over. Anyway, yes. Did I answer that question? Did I finish?
You did, in fact.
I think I did.
All right, this one I'm actually very curious about this one. This one's from Cobalt Creations. If you could take a character from the games and write a novel about them specifically, other than I guess Joey, who would you want to write about most?
Oh wow, I'm interested in the answer to that too. What is my answer to that? I don't, I don't know. I'm trying to think of who. I'm not able to answer. Like I will answer. The reason it's taking so long is I'm going through everyone in my head. I'm like, oh, that would be good too. It's like, could I just write? Can I just give everyone a novel? Um, I mean, Henry is interesting, but I also think there's a mystique to him. I know a lot of people want more Henry, but I sort of see like it's sort of nice because he's also sort of an audience insert, like to not, but very interesting. Um, I do really enjoy the Allison and Tom relationship. I've done, all the books. I'm not sure if Illusion of Living, but I think almost all the books, they're sort of in it in some way. So that could be really, really fun too. Um, I mean, if Audrey didn't have an entire game devoted to her story, I mean, that could be really interesting. About, I guess, her upbringing, but also how she doesn't know her upbringing. I don't know. That could be. I see. The problem is they're all pretty great, right? Like the second you start talking about one, you're like, oh yeah, but then you could do this. I just honestly, yeah, I would happily write about anybody, I guess. Um, yeah, we resubmission, talking about a gent workshop and fun. Yeah, like I mean, just writing about gent would be so interesting as well. I mean, I enjoyed that part very much with Fade to Black, writing about gent, and obviously with the Archie inclusion, it was clear I'm pretty like interested in gent. So yeah, so Tom and gent and stuff. Yeah. Ah, see, that was an unsatisfying answer. It's like I don't know, man. Like, let me just write one for every single. Like that.
I mean, that's a lot of novels.
Yeah, I know that's a lot, man. That's a lot of work. That's I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I do get tired, you know. In general, not of not of Bendy. Oh, I actually I brought this to show you guys, but guess who got the jacket?
Oh, I wrote one down.
I'm a
It's so
woman
good. So
obsessed.
good. Everyone in chat's
So yeah,
jealous.
never tired of Bendy, just tired, because I'm a human being and sometimes I get tired. Uh, sorry, yeah, not a great answer, but it's an answer.
I think that's a pretty good answer. You got lots of
Okay,
ideas.
thank you for validating.
All right, and the next one is from Drew's Gopher. This one I have a big spoiler warning on the recording of this,
Oh,
so
okay,
we don't
all
need to
right.
worry about that. But
Oh, maybe I don't want
oh, what's
to
up?
joke. That was a bad joke. It was stupid.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
I was joking. Oh no, don't tell me the spoiler. It was
Oh, because you
it was
because you
very
wrote the
dumb.
novel.
Yeah, anyway. Do go on with the spoiler question. Yeah.
All right. So, while writing Dreams Come to Life, did you intend for a dot return later on, like while you were writing it?
Oh. Um I guess yes and no. I mean the way it ends, there's these vibes that Dot's, out there. Right? So in my head, I had I think I sort of hoped and sort of thought clearly Dot is out there and Dot knows a lot. And it makes sense that at some point that she's heard from again, right? So I oh my gosh, those little memes are so depressing.
They're they're a little like when
Oh
you
my
send
gosh.
certain messages, they get
Oh
sent automatically.
my God. Um uh but yeah, but when I was yeah, and so yes, it made sense in my head, but there wasn't really like I didn't have a plan. Let's put it like that. It was sort of It was like, this would make sense for her to reappear. And then as I was outlining Fade to Black, I'm like, wait a minute. This makes perfect sense. This is where this makes so much sense. And I obviously that was one of the many things that, I was like talking to talking to theMeatly about, is this cool? Sort of thing. And yeah, so I was happy that that we were able to do it. And it was something that was always sort of, I guess, there, but it wasn't quite as intentional as must find way. It was, oh, this is perfect. And it made me very happy, like literally writing the bit. Yeah, this is the spoiler section of our conversation. Writing the bit where Rose gets the call from the bookstore. I wrote it very intentionally that ends with, yes, I'm Dot. What? But even writing that for me, even though I knew in my brain, because I was the one writing it, I was still like, what? I really liked writing that little moment. I mean, I like writing the whole when they actually talk, but that little moment just made me really happy. And I generally write, like, not chronologically. I write, yes, chronologically in the sense of the beginning through to the end of the book. Not all books are chronological, of course, but I tend to write, like that. Sometimes if I'm stuck, I'll jump to a bit that I'm really excited to write, and then I'll go back and feel less stuck. But generally I write this way. So that's another reason I'm not, writing her scenes like first. I'm writing to get to there. So I'm like, oh my God, we're almost there. We're almost there. So yeah. There you go.
I
That's
still
the answer.
remember. I still remember reading that, and I was on the page to its left, and I accidentally glanced over and saw the word Dot, and I like shut the book and gasped.
You read like me. I go so fast, and then sometimes I sort of go too far too fast, and I haven't read that paragraph, but I've spoiled myself on like the other page. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you gasped.
All right, here's the next one from Heartless, which is,
Oh,
if you were given the opportunity, would you want to write a book from the point of view of the ink demon?
I honestly do any. I love the challenge. Like, one of the things I like about, I think a lot of writers enjoy writing for other IPs. I don't think it's an unusual thing, but I think one of the reasons I like it is I like the structure and then the challenge of figuring out within that structure of solving problems and sort of bringing my own sort of creativity to it. So any challenge, like writing from the Ink Demons, Ink Demon, gosh, what an interesting perspective that would be. It's the question, see, now that you've raised it, is like, would it be just a classic, I'm the Ink Demon, I'm doing stuff, here are my thoughts, and this is why I do them, and here's my story arc? Or is it like, you tell the story of like other characters that the Ink Demon encounters, but through the POV, almost like it's like a short story anthology, you know what I mean? Like it's like in bits, and you would have like the Ink Demon perspective on these people and stuff. I don't know. See, already I'm like, what would you do? There's I've been doing the love streams with the voice actors for the games. Like, what for the games? And Sean, who's the Ink Demon. I mean, if you guys watched it, the first one I did, you will know that I cried every time somebody new did a voice, because I'm also a fan. So I was like, oh my God, you're right here. And when he did the Dark Revival Ink Demon voice, I, without any like mic augment, like any sound, like he just does the voice. I was like, oh my God, I started to cry again. Like, it's amazing. So good. It's like so good. That's a digression. So I mean, I will do it. I won't do anything. I'm not gonna say that, but I mean that could be a fun idea. Oh, you have a print. That's so cool. Oh, I remember when he signed that one. I think I was on that love stream. Anyway, sorry, digression. Hopefully that answers the answer is like, yeah, I mean, sure. But what would it be is the thing.
All right, that is a very. I'm like buzzed. That's such a cool idea to hear from the ink demon. All right,
Well, thanks.
and then the second question from Heartless is: The way you write Joey Drew is so good. He really reminds me of somebody I used to know. That's concerning. What do you think helped you project how a mind like his would work so well?
Yeah, I've said this a few times, I think on Twitter, I don't know, maybe even on one of the streams, that I like, it's so weird to say that he's like one of my favorites to write, which is awful because he's really not a good person. I like to think I'm a pretty good person, so I don't think it reflects that. I think one of the reasons I like him so much is like, oh no, this is recorded, don't take that out of context. I like writing him so much is that he thinks so differently than I ever would. And one of the big things that I've just really, the way I get into his head is that oh gosh, I never know the proper term, whether it's sociopath or psychopath, but he genuinely does not have empathy. Not in a I don't care. I don't think he knows he doesn't have it. He genuinely doesn't care what anyone else feels. It doesn't matter to him. And not in like even like well, like I said, I don't care. It's just he doesn't even think he should care. So but he does know other people can be useful, and he does know that if somebody has a good idea, he can take that idea and make it even better. That's how he thinks. That's why he doesn't think he's ever stealing something. I think he's also a narcissist. Again, this is all me sort of like I have no official diagnosis. I cannot speak to anything like that. I'm not going that far, but in my head, it's just he's just so full of himself and so absolutely does not care about anyone else. And there are people that charm him. There are people he's like, oh, that's fun. You said a funny thing. That's neat. Or it's almost maybe how like we see pets, like he just sees and he's like, oh, Rose, that's adorable. I feel a positive energy from you that in turn makes I feel now a positive energy. So I love that because I am beyond empathetic to like as a kid, I would kick a rock down the street and manage to make it all the way down the street, right? With the same rock. And I'd get home with this rock and I'd be like, well, now this rock is my friend. So I can't just leave this rock outside the house, right? Like I anthropomorphize everything. I'm almost too, that's where the anxiety comes from. I'm almost too, concerned. I am too concerned what other people think, but I'm just, absorbing every emotion around me. It's why sometimes big parties are why I'm Papa D standing in the corner of a big party. It's just so much emotion at me, right? So the idea to be able to shut all that off and just not care or not even know you're supposed to care, I just think it's like fascinating. And then with that in mind, he's just, he's so charming and he's so personable and he's so fabulous and he's just, and I like writing his charm. And then I like when people realize that there's no depth to the charm. It's just this how he talks to people, but if you do anything for a second, he has no loyalty to you. He's not charming because he's like, oh, you are my new best friend. It's just like, this is how I talk to everyone. And then, yeah, so I like, so I've written him in every single book. He's probably featured the least in The Lost Ones, but he's still quite significant. Writing The Illusion of Living, that was the second one I wrote. I think so. It was a really good exercise in really getting to know a person because it was first person and I was writing. So first person is I, me. Third person is he, she, they, right? And then second person is fun. That's the first chapter in Fade to Black where it's you. You walk down the street and you do this. But yeah, so Illusion of Living is obviously a memoir, so it's first person. So I got to know him real well, but that's the book. I think Illusion of Living really just like, he just has zero empathy. He doesn't see, like when he watches that person fall off the roof and right in front of him as a kid, he's just like, wow, weird. Oh, look, there's the ambulance. Oh, what's he doing? Like, it's not like somebody just got seriously injured or died in front of him. This is fascinating, everything that's going on. And he just, yeah. And he's yeah, deeply narcissistic and self-absorbed. So that's where I go. I'm like, what's the opposite of an Adrienne? I sort of just go and I just imagine what it's like to just not really see anyone else as human, or being the main character in their own stories. Everybody is an NPC, I suppose, for him, and that's why he just doesn't care.
Wow.
That
Terrifying.
intense? Was that too much?
I guess perfectly
I
Joey.
write a lot of Joey. So, and in fact, with my very first, so when I auditioned, as I was telling you guys, when I auditioned to write the books, they didn't need, because they'd already read, I think, all the authors' books, like stuff we'd written, so they already knew our styles and stuff. So they only wanted a few pages. But I was so determined. I was like, if I write this audition, I need to write Joey. I can't just do. I'm not sure if I had named him Buddy yet in my head, but I can't just do Buddy. I have to bring Joey in for this audio. So I ended up like submitting like 3 times the length of what was asked for, because I'm like, I need. And you basically read it. It's him going up into when they first meet, the beginning of Dreams Come to Life. It's changed with some edits and stuff, but that's essentially where he's like, and this is Bendy. Up to that, yeah. Guys, if we keep talking about Joey, his ego will grow. It's true. It's so true. We need to, like, next question. Next question.
All right, I'm moving on. We have from Songwriter Scorned, which is an awesome username.
Yeah.
Is there anything that, if given the chance, you'd want to go back and change?
I mean, okay, so the answer, I wish I could just answer quickly, and then, like, we wouldn't be, the answer is no. I don't think there's anything I'd want to change. I really am quite pleased with how all the books turned out. The answer longer than that is, I'm sure I will, like, I read this and go, oh, that sentence, or, oh, maybe there should be a comma there, or, oh, no, why is that word repeated twice, or, technical things, or, just, you're hard on yourself as an artist. I think you guys probably all know that to some extent. So so yes, I'm sure there are ways in which I composed something that I'd be like, oh, I could do that differently now. But as far as what no, I'm pretty pleased. I think they're great, and I think, obviously, I've had, the support of the Meatly and Book Pass with. So I think it's, they're nicely sort of shaped, and I quite like them.
All right. All right, and then the next one from Songwriter Scorned as well is, do you have any involvement with the character designs in the graphic novel, like, directly?
No, I don't. I say that sadly. Honestly, it's I am not. So one of the reasons also I wanted to make Buddy an art person. Wow, I have words and stuff. Apprentice in the artists section under Miss Lambert. And why I want to focus on art so much is I'm not good at it. I went to an art school, as I said, but I think art was like my lowest grade. I was very enthusiastic. And I learned a lot, and I can do some things if it take like 12 hours to draw a circle. But because of that, I, in university, studied a whole bunch of art history. I was actually going to double major with my theater degree with art history, but it was too many credits and too little time. So I graduated with a ridiculous number of art history credits for no reason, really. So I love art and art history and artists. I'm just starting up on the latest Ink Master season. I think, tattooists tattooers are incredible. So I'm obsessed. So that's why I wanted to write about it. But ultimately, no. So I don't really, I have very, very little say in the graphic novel. But I have seen something. Because even though they are under no obligation to share, Scholastic and everybody involved this is such a great team, like from the top, like the Meatly and Book Pass down, it's very open and communicative. Oh my goodness, I'm just looking at all this art. I'm going to have to like scroll up through it after we're done, because there's some great stuff that's coming up that I could never do. So they don't have to, and they've shared a few things with me, and I'm like, ooh, I'm excited. I mean, I talked about this in the stream. I've seen this on my Twitter, and I just want to reinforce that just because there are designs for the graphic novel, and I think that's what theMeatly was also trying to address when he was that question of canon. I think I don't. The fan art is amazing. Headcanon rocks. And just because there are some designs that exist, it doesn't mean that suddenly one is not allowed to create or invent or do a completely different style or a completely different aesthetic. The choices are, that's the whole point of playing and having a good time within fandom. I don't want people to feel demoralized if they don't like it. I think like I'm excited. I mean, again, I haven't seen, I haven't seen the finished thing or anything, but I think it looks pretty great, and I think the designs are really cool, and I think the artist that they hired, if you look up some of his stuff, oh, now I don't know his name off by heart. It's Alex something. Oh gosh. Oh no. Somebody I think posted the cover for the graphic novel like ages ago. His name, Alex, and I don't know his last name at the top of my head, is there. So it's Adrienne Kress, illustrated by Alex. Can't remember his last name in the moment. I'm embarrassed. And then adapted by Christopher Hastings. So he's the one who did the comic script, which I'm very grateful for, because I don't know how I would have adapted a very long novel. Like, yeah, I don't know. So he's incredible. I think it's in good hands. But no, I don't really get a say. I don't. Again, really long answer for really, no, I don't. Kind of answer.
All right. Oh, all right, this is a long one. I'm going to have to shorten it. All right. I'm unsure of if this question can or will be directly answered, or I guess answered at all. But is the Henry that Joey sees and speaks to in Fade to Black the same one as the one from the games?
So that's like actually an interesting question that I can't fully answer. The way I was thinking of it was because that's a good question. Because the way I was writing it was they've all worn these glasses, right? So they're all seeing things to some degree, depending on how much, right? Ollie has it really bad because he's been sitting there wearing these glasses for so long. Obviously, Joey's been working with them, so he has it pretty bad as well. Rose did it once for like 10 seconds, so that's why it's much more limited. So I think I was writing it with the idea that he was what's real, what's not, that question of like he's talking to Henry. That question is an interesting one, which I've not, really speculated on before until now. But of course, we know now that the loop, has sort of its genesis with like the TV. So the question is the Henry that Joey is seeing, like just a figment, or is it possibly like, the question is, I there was no intention for it to be one of the game ones, but you could actually theorize, you could make it if you wanted to, but the intention was more just like seeing things that aren't there, and that the likelihood that Joey would be ranting and raving to Henry, like that would be one of the top things his brain would seek out, right? That would be probably the thing for him. So yeah.
Very, very interesting. All right, and then this one, last question from Songwriter Scorned, is just asking you for a headcanon that you have about Sammy or Norman, Sammy Lawrence or Norman Poe.
I don't really have. I definitely Norman, just, I don't know why, he just makes me smile. Like I really enjoyed him in Dreams Come to Life. I sort of like this idea of him, just he sees all, and he's sort of cynical about it all, and I just sort of, I see him as the sort of person, I don't know, I was a theater tech for a long time. I see him as sort of like this grizzled old theater tech who's just been up in the booth for a bit, too long, but eventually you can sort of like get him to start to tell stories, once you can sort of get past his cynicism. But I don't really actually have any really. I'm sorry, that's not a fun answer. I'm sorry. But these pictures, they keep going by. Ugh, I'm going to scroll. I'm going to look. I keep missing them.
All right, are we ready to move on?
I am, yes. I should like every time I take a sip, that will be a sign. I'll do. "Ooh."
All right. All right, let's see. And then Cobalt Creations has some questions from their partner. All right. In The Lost Ones, Brant mentions having a little sister, but she's never really brought up. Do you have any names or details about her, or was she just kind of a detail?
No, I don't. Um, but that's sort of where it's sort of, I think I always like when you guys flesh these things out, I'm like, oh, that's cool. No, not really. It was just sort of to establish he had a sort of a large family, and it was, I didn't want it to be too like Buddy, but in that same way, like living sort of all cramped together, and his desire similar, I suppose, in some ways to Buddy's, although he's a very different personality to Buddy, but of bettering himself and just like, no, I'm going to be the best reporter. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to make something of myself. Wait, you'll all see, kind of thing. And just this idea that he's, surrounded by lots of people. Uh, but otherwise, no.
All right. That's simple enough. All righty. And then. Here, hang
By
on, I
the
got
way,
it
I'm
here.
trying to be better and more, direct and concise. So my not rambling to answer a question, if somebody asks a question, is not me not caring. It's me like getting more used to this format. So nobody like take it the wrong if I'm like suddenly like, no, next question. It's more just I'm like, yeah, okay. I know how to do this now. I know how to do this.
All right. And then
Okay.
this one, where I'm gonna shrink this one a bit because again, it's very. Some of these questions are very long. All right. Fade to Black, it seems to be like the most favored and highest skill quality of the novels. Is there anything in particular that you thought that you did really well in Fade to Black compared to the others?
I don't um um hmm, hmm. I don't know. This is going to sound really silly because it's not something anybody's probably thinking about, but I explained the whole second person thing, which is you. I really liked that opening chapter. I was like, oh, I don't know. I thought it really sort of was like, well, that's good, Adrienne. Like when you're like, oh yeah, maybe I am like, you just get better with practice and work and stuff. Um, I don't know. I really it might be less like it's hard to say when it comes to skills. Like I think my hope is as a writer, and as a creator in general, that one improves on everything one is doing and just exponentially you just keep working and you keep working on yourself and on your craft. Um, and you don't want to flatline and you certainly don't want to go down. And obviously, it's a very subjective business. So not everyone's going to agree in what is great, what is not great, etc. Um, so I can't speak to any sort of purposeful trying to write better aside from just trying to always improve. But I think maybe if there's one thing is it's the fourth book I've written in this world. And I'm just really, I guess, getting more comfortable with the world. Maybe it's yeah. I've been hanging out here for a while, so maybe there's a bit of confidence, like trust in myself, possibly. Um, yeah. So that might be part of it. It might be. I mean, I really enjoy. I mean, I enjoy writing them all though. So it's like I really enjoyed writing Rose. Yeah, but I really all the others. And it's one of those things where if somebody were to ask who's your favorite character, I'm like, no, these are all my children. You cannot make me choose between them. Um, but I did. I found the challenge of writing an optimistic main character in a horror book weird, and I'm like, why did I gave myself this challenge? Why did I do this to myself? But I did it to myself, and I really enjoyed writing that style of character within the context of this world and this book. So that and Ollie was such a and I'm glad some people have said because I'm an only child, so some people have really related to the sibling ness of Ollie and Rose, and I think that's made me really, 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 really happy because I really felt I really enjoyed the two of them in their relationship. But again, I don't. Yeah, I think maybe just confidence in the world, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Only child game. Woo.
Alrighty. The cup signal. All right. And the next question is from Bon. It says, which of the books was your favorite to write and why?
That's a tough one because when you're writing them, I find it very stressful. Like it's I get overwhelmed by myself, right? That's where the anxiety I think comes in. So in the moment, it can be a very overwhelming feeling. But but then in hindsight, you're just like, oh, I love the book, or oh, that was so cool and that was so fun. And it was it's hard to say. I'm gonna do the like they're all my kids. I think I love them all equally. I will say The Illusion of Living was such a unique experience to write, like to write a memoir. That's a fiction. That's not a real person, but to write it like it's a proper memoir um, was really neat. It was a really really neat assignment, basically, um, and I really did enjoy figuring that out. So, but again, I'm not sure it was like the most fun or my most favorite. It was just an interesting experience, I guess. I like it all. I'm boring. I'm sorry. I like them all.
I won't call that boring. I think that's
Okay. I just sometimes hate giving a wishy. Like it's not a wishy. It's the truth, but sometimes the truth can be wishy washy. So.
all right. Let's see. And the next one is from Nikki. And it is, which character from the Bendy books was the hardest to write or describe correctly?
Oh man. I'm not sure. I oh gosh, I hope this doesn't sound arrogant. I love doing characters. Like that's my character and dialogue, like that's my thing. That's my favorite. So it's never it never really feels hard. I think what's hard initially, especially with the new characters who are in the books, let's just like the teen leads, the main characters, is just knowing who they are in the first place. So figuring out who's going to be the lead, why are they how they are. Um and I can be very it can be very silly to the point of like, well, I've done this type of character, so clearly now I have to do the opposite type of character. Like it's not even that um fancy, but it's coming up with I think the hardest is definitely coming up with the protagonists. Coming up with who they are, why um because they're all period pieces. It's also like, why are they how they are? If they're around 16, 17, 18, what is their experience? And then always remembering the World War II-ness of it all. Even though the most recent one is set in 53, everybody, we all have history. We have, grandparents and great grandparents who had, experiences during the war, but it's an immediate history for all of these teenagers. So you come up with something really cool and a cool idea. It's like, oh, but in 1943, that would have, oh no, like you realize that you have to take stock of that few years that happened and how massively world changing that whole thing was. That whole thing that we call World War II. Um, so yeah, the protagonists of each are probably the trickiest to settle and place. But then once you do, like if you do the hard work at the beginning, then they just sort of start informing the story itself. And I like to, plot things out. Obviously, like as I already said, I have to have an outline that's approved and commented on and stuff. So there has to be some structure, but it's incredible where a well realized character will take you. And you're like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. But Rose did. How clever of her. So yeah. So hopefully that answers that question.
Alrighty. Then the next one is from Tengri, who I believe is in chat, and saying, so I know earlier that you said it was hard to choose between a favorite character of the ones you've written, but what about who's your favorite character that appears both in game and in the books?
Oh, jeez. but that's just harder. Is that an easier question than that question? Um, all right. I don't have I can't, but I will say maybe just because it's the most recent. All right. I'm going to exclude Joey from this because we've already done the whole Joey thing. So, oh, hello. My cat is right here. Right now, Archie, I guess, just because he was a joy to put into Fade to Black, and I'm still sort of riding that Fade to Black high. But the again, the wishy-washy answer is it's just so much fun to do all of them. And of course, Joey is, you know, I already went all down the whole Joey road there.
Alrighty. And then the next one, we're going back to Bond for this one because it's in a different place in my little list. We got, were there any elements, enemies, or characters you'd like to incorporate from the games to the books that you haven't, like the Butcher Gang or
Yeah, the Butcher Gang, it's always like, oh, how do I get these guys in here? Because they're so fun. And awful. I mean, awful as in when you encounter them, it's go away. Um, yeah, gosh. I mean, I'd like to. It's nice to sort of touch on them all and sort of include them all. I think the stories sort of dictate who gets to be featured, but like within the actual cartoons, um, right? When I say Ghost Girl, like that's her name, right? I'm not losing my like the one from Dark Revival who was canceled, not canceled, not the way we use canceled, but was supposed to be one of the Butcher Gang. Oh, Carly, yes, thank you. But she's like that ghost. She's a ghost, right? Like that's her whole, yeah. Um, First of all, I found her terrifying. I mean, I'm not good with jump scares. But secondly, I just that whole story about that she's like that she it was supposed to be, but they didn't want this female character. I don't know. There's just something about her that I just I think is kind of cool. So maybe that one would be cool. But yeah, I like all the animated guys. Maybe I'll bias towards Boris. I like Boris.
I wonder why.
I know.
All right, let's see. The next one is from Drew's Gopher. Is a huge fan of your work and wanted to ask, where do you find the information to like research the time periods so accurately?
Yeah. Well, these days it's sorry, Boris. Hi, Boris. I these days it's super easy because yay internet, right? I've written quite a few period stuff, and there was a time where there's a huge library that we've got a lot of libraries in Toronto, but a huge one called the Toronto Reference Library, and it's absolutely massive, and it's really cool to be there. And they don't let you take out books; you have to photocopy everything. Again, this is before the internet was quite as useful. So I've definitely done the classic go to the library, read a book thing. But I Google, I watch, I like documentary. I really like TV and movies. I'm a big sitting in front of a TV screen kind of gal. Some of you know that like my husband and I we produced a film. I'm very into that. So if I can consume my history via a YouTube video or a really good documentary or even films from the time. So I do enjoy watching a film that's set in that time because it sort of can be a nice sort of a short form version of the things that people remember from the past, if that makes sense. Like the things that we remember and highlight in a film that's set in the past, if that. But when you watch an actual film that is made then, you'll see things that might not actually be as, might not have made as much of an impact as the directors who are making a contemporary film set in the past. So I like doing it like that. With Dreams Come to Life, one of the reasons I decided on the Lower East Side for Buddy is because I think the summer before, the fall before, I had been I used to go to New York a lot before the pandemic because it's quite close to Toronto. And there's a lot of publishing stuff in New York. there's a museum in the Lower. It's called the Tenement Museum, and it's really, really cool. They found these old boarded up tenements in the Lower East Side that when they went inside, and they hadn't been renovated, they hadn't been torn down, they found sort of this time capsule from the past in these old sort of old apartment buildings, essentially. And you can go. And what they've done is they found, I guess, census data. They found information about who had actually lived there, and the relatives, the people who whose grandparents might have lived there, or whatever, donated some items, or like a diary, or here's something that used to be in that home when my grandfather lived there. So there are actual items that were from that exact home. And you can basically, what it is you can go on a variety of tours, and it's only like 20 people max because they're very small, and you can go up and go in them and learn about the people who actually lived there, and you can see it, and it's like it's like time travel. It's really, really, really cool. So I had just been there, and I knew what the Lower East Side tenements looked like. I knew what so it was fascinating. The sweatshops, which is a very familiar term, didn't become the sweatshops where everybody's in a factory being paid nothing and working there until a few decades after the term initially started in these tenements. And that was actually, this were homes in which people would be sewing together fabrics and pre-existing designs for the tailors, for them, but they were basically they were sewing. That's all that they were doing. They're putting it together, and that. So I went on the sweatshop tour, which was to one tenement that was just like this 2-room apartment, and yeah, that's where they sewed, but that's also where they lived, and I was like, that's so cool. So when I started with Dreams Come to Life, I'm like, there's a reason his buddy's ma is sews all the stuff. It was like, well, I was just there. I just had a very visceral experience. I did all this research without even realizing it. Let's include that. And I think that's just going back to the like advice for writers number of our first question. I recommend highly that just be an observer. I think if you're a writer, you're naturally an observer, but just everything that comes at you, even if it doesn't seem like it matters or it doesn't affect what you're writing or what you're working on, or you're kind of not that into it, just devour everything that comes your way, because suddenly, like a year later, you're like, oh my gosh, that thing, what was that thing? And suddenly you're Googling, and it will just spark something. And yeah, so generally internet, internet, documentaries, and then sometimes if you get to go and see stuff yourself, it's pretty cool.
That is
Oh, sorry, I
awesome.
forgot to say.
All right, and then the next one is from 3 a.m. lore enthusiast, and
Ooh,
I can't remember if this was answered or not, but what are Rose's mother and father's names if they have
I don't know.
them?
But you come up with it. I like it's not weird. Like, so because there are some writers who just they know everything. They have like books and books and books of details and stuff. Like you think of J.R. Tolkien for Lord of the Rings, right? Like what's in the like that's why there's so much other information that people can mine from it, right? Me, I'm like, I don't know. Do they say a name? No, then we don't need a name right now. Um, I again, this goes back to like it's so funny because I'm so into character, but I think that's it. Like it's the personality and it's the stuff that people say to each other and it's their beliefs and their motivate. That's the stuff that interests me. And sometimes I'm like, oh shoot, I haven't said what this person looks like yet. Like I that's like, oh no, what's this person's last name? I don't know. So that's sort of more me. But I think if you guys come up with names and you want it, please go for it.
that
uh,
seems that seems like a fun time actually to come up with names. All right, and then let's see. Not kind of. All right, where are we? There we are. All right, and then from Victor, we have a couple of questions. We got who was your favorite protagonist to write for out of the Lost Ones trio?
oh man, okay. I don't know. It's like picking kids. I was just gonna say Bill, and that was on the like when I heard that question, my instinct just said that, and I find that really funny because I think I really enjoyed Brant's humor. Um, as if I wasn't the one, right? I don't know. It's like I really, really enjoyed his humor, and I really liked I really like Constance's relationship with her sisters, but also at her arc. So I don't know, like for everyone who's read it, but essentially the idea was, the tagline I gave it was, "What's your inner demon?" Right? That the ink sort of finds that thing inside of you that is buried deepest. And I liked the idea of this very wealthy kid who has a dad who's clearly in the mob, or at least affiliated with the mob. Um, and he's supposed to inherit the family, but like having this deep well of fear, like the thing that it's just, and also just, being a guy, especially in the 40s, and that sort of, being forced, you have to be strong and brave. And I really, really sort of enjoyed him having to deal with that and sort of face that. But as somebody was just, Constance, I love, she's so angry. I'm not gonna lie, it was really, really fun to write her being angry. Like, it was really, really, really fun. So all three were a joy, but there was, I guess, yeah, my instinct is saying Bill, but I really, really, now that I've said it, I'm like backtracking because I really enjoyed writing all of them, especially, like I said, when they all got to be together. That was always my favorite, and it does not happen much in the book, unfortunately. Yeah, hopefully that answers.
Yeah. All right. And then we see. Do you think we'll ever see more characters from the games appearing in the books, or vice versa?
That I legitimately don't know. I don't have an answer to that.
All right, well, that's simple enough.
That was easy. Oh my gosh, that was so
Yeah.
fast.
All right, and then was Scott in the Lost Ones named after your husband, or just a fun coincidence?
See, I remember telling him, by the way, there's a character named Scott in the Lost Ones, but I don't think I purposefully named him Scott. I think I was just like, that feels like a good name, and I think it happened pretty quick. I'm like, oh, Scott's a good name. It's like, oh, you're married to a Scott. Yeah, it's fine. So I think that was sort of the order, but I definitely is like, by the way, there's a Scott in this.
All right, another quick one.
Yeah, so I told you I'm getting a little better.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't know. I can't speak. I just natter. I've said the word natter so many times, guys. I'm so sorry. It's like the word of the day. Or if you're a little older, it's a drinking game.
The last one from Victor is this one. This is an interesting one. Has the science behind the ink changed throughout writing the books? Have there been changes made to how it works to make it fit the narrative better?
I don't think so. Um, I think the answer is no. I don't think I especially with I think the illusion of living, there's some, oh no, there was conversation about silly vision, which is in the illusion of living. So I had to understand silly. So there was back and forth about silly vision and the illusion of living. Um, and then yeah, no, but that was because then I used that information that I had on silly vision, for Fade to Black. So no, I don't think it has, but I don't know 100%. I'm also don't know what's happening, games wise, or what they, where they are at. Um, but I don't think so, no.
Alrighty then. And then here we have another one from Drew's Gopher, which is you mentioned offhandedly in the Lost Ones that ink and seawater don't mix. Was there anything implied about like what would happen, or is that just kind of a
Oh, that
comment?
might be similar to like the names of the parents. It might be some. No, I don't really. Yeah, I feel there are definitely people who are really into the mechanics of that, and I unless it's expanded upon. Again, this is the crazy thing. I know I wrote the books, but I'm also, it's like it's been a while since I've read that. Unless there's been any expanding in itself, and there's not really any further information that I'm holding back or anything.
All right. And then
If that makes
this one I'm curious about, but might also be like the parent thing.
sense.
Um, does Dot or Evan, do either of them have last names, and if so, what are they? This is from Drew's Gopher.
So it sounds weird. Dot doesn't have a last name, right? Like Dot should have a last name. He might have like in one of the first drafts of to Life, but I can tell you that yeah, I don't think Evan has a last name. No, I don't think he has a last name. If I don't say a last name, then he doesn't have a last name. Dot may have, like back in like what, it came out 2019, so I either wrote it like 2018 or early 2019. So back in the old days, she may but no, I guess if there isn't one, then no. Sorry. I feel remiss. I'm like, I still really love these guys. I'm just, certain things don't, it's not like they don't matter to me. They're just like, you have different priorities, and I think they all, and that's the great thing about writers is, and that's what's so fun to hang out with other writers, is because it's not like you're all like, yeah, me too. It's very oh, you do that? Oh, that's interesting. Maybe I should try that. Like it's very, everybody has a unique way of creating and writing and passions and what they're interested in, and it can be great. You can ask for advice. I have a friend who she's super into historical stuff, and she's really into like the sort of day-to-day domestic stuff of history. So there's a ton of great reality shows. I'm pointing, my TV's over there. That's why I keep pointing in that direction. Like Supersizers Go or Back in Time for Dinner, like all these shows that are just analyze how did people just cook and eat and in different time periods and stuff. And so if but that's not something I really, I'm like, oh, I should, yeah, I need, so I'm like, hey, I'm writing a book set here. Any thoughts about this? Because that's what she really focuses on. And so yeah, I just saw Kat says a Dot last name. So that can be her last name. Her last name could be last name. But yeah. So for me, I guess yeah, I have shame and guilt right now. But that's the answer. The answer is no. I guess they don't. So sorry.
All right. And then we have Clover's questions, which as one of them is, did the Fade to Black siblings actually manage to escape the cycle at the end, or was Bendy smiled back, pulling you into an inception?
Into like is it the little like, I mean, I guess I answering this is sort of, I do have an answer, so I'll do it. But I also like the idea that it can go sort of any way. It's a little cliffhangery in a sense, but no, what I had, the idea was it's sort of, they make it back, but they both have to deal with PTSD essentially, like their dad. So she sees Bendy because he's always going to be with her now. So they have a happy ending, but they're still dealing with the emotional scars that happen when you go through a traumatic experience. So that was sort of what was happening there. But the idea that you don't know, the idea that like, are they, I actually quite like that too. And now that I've made the answer, I hope I don't ruin that potential ending for people if they prefer that. I think somebody said, so it is a bad ending. I'm like, I don't know. I think it's a complicated ending. I think it's a human ending. I think to me it's a happy ending because none of the other protagonists in the books get to live. To me, they have each other. They have each other as a family. I think for the dad's arc, he really sort of helped pull Ollie out of the world, right? He was able to sort of face his own personal demons and actually help his kids and not fall into his version of the puddles. I think they all sort of found an inner strength, and I think they're all there for each other, and they're a loving family. And obviously it's a very happy ending because Rose quit. So she's not working for Joey no more. She's done with that nonsense. So it's not a joyful ending, I guess, but I think it's a human ending. It's more real. It's where we're sort of, we face things and sometimes they're not good and we have to deal with that, but we can still move on and have a nice life and good things happen, and the people, and I don't know, most important thing are the people we love and being around them. So I think it's a hopeful ending. I don't know. I think it's a happy ending personally. Sip.
I like that. I like that hopeful ending. And then last one from Clover. Oh, this is a. All right, I gotta paraphrase this one as well. All right. So we've talked a lot about how you love writing for Joey Drew, and that includes his complex feelings towards Henry Stein. So the question is, how would you describe his like real feelings about Henry? Is it hatred, regret, love, any of any?
I mean, okay, so this is the tricky thing, and I don't want to, because Henry is so the games, and you know, the Henry Joey relationship is very much a Meatly, creation. So I don't want to speak to anything. But again, I sort of like what the Meatly said. Things are canon, but the game is more canon, right? So if I say anything and then it's disagreed with in a game, go with the game thing, right? My feeling, and I think this is from, like, I mean, I'm not just making this out of thin air. This is what I see with the games. I mean, we know that, in the second game, there's some regret for Joey. He's finally felt some regret eventually. So there's got to be some humanity in him somewhere. But I think at least at the stage where Joey is at in the books that I'm writing, loyalty is very important to him. And I think Henry, absolutely betrayed in his mind, his trust. He left. They, did a thing, and then he left. And so I think he's I think he sees himself as a victim and being abandoned, and he didn't need him anyway. Whatever, don't need him anyway, but still, like that sort of, like that kind of person, like, well, yeah, whatever, I don't care, I didn't need you around, it's fine, but still feels like, oh, how dare you? Because, he's allowed to fire people, he's allowed to, Joey's allowed to fire people, he's allowed to kill people, he's allowed to do any number of things, and that's the right decision. But taking the decision into your own hands and away from him, what arrogance. How dare they? How dare anyone do such a thing? And I think, well, you see that between Joey and Evan, right? Evan already is sort of bitter. He doesn't want to be working at a TV studio, right? That's not his dream. But in that confrontation in the hallway at the party, he's just like, he still fires him, but Evan is just being like completely, he's like, I broke the glasses, I've done this. He's like, it's the ultimate betrayal. If you're not allowed power, only Joey is allowed to have power and make decisions. That's how I see it. And that's sort of where I feel Joey is probably, again, like it's, in the books, but the games obviously are set after, like way after the books. So his emotional journey and where he's at in the games is going to be vastly different. But yeah, him yelling at Henry in the book and stuff, I think is just like, and he says it's like the ultimate betrayal. Like this guy betrayed him. And all he did was just they parted way. But how dare you? Anyway, yeah, I think that answers the question. I did natter a bit with that one, but I think, does that make sense?
I would say so, yeah. Yeah. We all in agreement. And then we have from Victor again in Fade to Black. Did Archie turn into a lost one in the cycle, or was he a different type of creature? I think I remember that.
Yeah, no, I guess I don't really have an answer for that specifically. In my mind, I sort of saw him as some of, how there are some lost ones, or even, Sammy, who's like all inky, but they have some clothes or they have a element, right? So aesthetically, I saw him with the fedora and the jacket, but then totally like that inky thing. Whether or not I don't have an answer. Whether like what it's also such early days for this whole loopy thing that I'm not sure what anything aside from the fact that I got to bring the projectionist back, which was very exciting. Yeah. Oh, I hope that answers. Sorry, I will sip. So the answer is I don't really know, but aesthetically, this is how I picture that.
All right. And then let's see. From Maria, we have. Why can't my text is freaking out on my screen here?
Oh no.
Sorry, give me 1 second. All right. In The Lost Ones, when Constance gets into the car with Joey at the end of
Yeah.
that book,
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty much. I think the question is just asking what's that? What's with that? What's that about?
It's just, you know how you have like certain things that really like personally freak you out, like that, like you'll watch a movie and your friends will be like, "Oh, that was scary," and you're like, "Well, I'm gonna have nightmares for forever." Like it's like it just affects you. Um, uh, okay, so what's actually happening there is he finds her and she's gonna, you know, not good. She's gonna, be killed, like what happened to the other two, essentially. So it's not, this is not a good ending. This is not like fate, but this is a very sad ending. The reason it's written like that is one of the things that absolutely distresses me so much when I watch a movie or a TV show is when somebody um thinks they have escaped and they haven't. That upsets me on a level that I like even right now. And I was just like, well, let's just put in the thing that really upsets you, like, so so that was sort of, yeah, like, because Joey's never going to let her get away, like, because, and also if she had, like, she like all the stuff, she has like this antidote, she has all the stuff that, she couldn't get away. So it was, it's just it's a very sad ending, I find, personally, but also like a very visceral, like, that's why I wrote it. It's like you feel hopeful, and then she gets in the car, and then you see Scott, right, who's crazy, and then Joey turns around, and you're like, oh no, and that sort of feeling. Um, it's really sad. It's really fun to talk about it because when you're writing it, you're just like, I just want to write this story, I want to affect feelings. I'm doing a horror, so it has to be. And then afterwards, talking about where you're like, oh man, that's sad. But if you want to think that she survived, that's okay too. Like at the end, oh, I don't want to spoil things, but like the end of Thelma and Louise, I tend to like to think that all endings are positive. Um, but um, but yeah, yeah, I'm sorry. It's just there. Yeah, I was trying to think of an example where they do it really, really well. Because it's a trope. It's a classic. Like you think they've escaped and then they haven't really. I mean, Game of Thrones did it. Forget which season, when what's his face? I've got names and stuff, was being tortured, and then I don't know. I don't want to spoil Game of Thrones for like they do it. It's I'm not the first person, which is why I did it, because I find it so awful. Anyway, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But you can, if you want her to be an okay ending, like she's like, oh no, and she jumps out of the car. I'm okay with that too, quite frankly.
So much more positive light
Yeah, I
on
like
her
right now.
getting
I'm
out
just
of
like,
the
oh.
car. All right, and then let's see. I don't want to. I'm trying to go through questions without like repeating them.
Well, I appreciate it. You're doing a great job. Everybody applaud for Joe.
Thank you. All right, and then here's a more like logistical question, I guess. How did Joey find Buddy's soul in the end of Dreams Come to Life? Like, was it in the
Hmm.
ink after the demon took him, or was it just there?
I don't know. I don't have I don't have a technical answer for that. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Catalyst.
Sorry.
That's all right. All right, and then we'll move on to Juju or semi-frequent Bendy on Twitter. We got, how do you feel about the continuity of the games compared to the books?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I
Um,
think I think it's like it's trying to ask like because the story of the games is very non-linear, while the books are very like a straight line kind of thing.
I mean, I if it's a question of structure, I'm really into. I actually really like playing with structure, so I actually really enjoy the way the games sort of feed you information about the past, and you slowly build a picture as you go along. I think both of them do that really, really, really well. And I mean, I clearly at like the end of Fade to Black, literally we have the first tape recorder, right? You have Joey, and it's like because I really find that quite charming. And of course, the illusion of living is all over the place timeline wise. When we were actually talking about it, when I was working on it with the editor for it, she was just like, we need to just make it explicitly clear what year this is. Maybe you could write a, like, because it's not a timeline that starts, this is I was born, and then we do this. It generally does that, but we jump around with dates with the illusion of living. And I was like, or I could just put the date at the top of every chapter, and we don't have to worry about careful exposition, and which is actually, we have to give, like, let's give major props to the team, to theMeatly and the team behind the games, because all that exposition that we get on those tape recorders, it could be tedious. It could be just like, and then this happened, and then this, but it's so deftly handled. It's like we get a little bit here, we get a date, we get a sense of something's happening, we still get some information, but we're not being just sort of handed here's what happened on this day. It's still very personal, it's very human. It's how somebody would actually, if they were recording this. It's very, very well done, and it's a very difficult thing to do. It's in some ways easier to just start at the beginning and then go to the end of a story. And also, there are obviously visuals in the games, but with the audio recordings, we're learning about a whole secondary timeline just through reading and listening. Like, it's our imaginations, which is great because then it sparks incredible, fan art and thoughts within the player. But that ain't easy. So I think it's wonderful. In conclusion, I love playing with form. I think, again, going back to everything will go back to that first question, but I think the best writer, you need to consume all kinds of writing. So you can read books, but read graphic novels, read poems, read plays. Like, don't just watch plays, but read a play, read a screenplay, like look at form and structure and have fun. I literally have a play in The Illusion of Living, just because, hey, why not? So playing with form is great fun, and it's very satisfying. These books, begin at the beginning, go on to the end. Well, yes and no, because Dreams Come to Life starts at the end, right? So I'm a big fan of playing with form, and I think I love the games, guys. I love the games. I really do.
All right, that's a very
I hope that was what the question meant. I apologize if I did not actually answer your question.
I think it was. I think Juju might be here actually. Yeah, Juju.
Yeah, there's there right there.
What do you think about that answer? Was that satisfying?
Hopefully it was good. I'm just thinking, let's go till 4. I feel like that's good. If, like, the audience, we're dwindling a little bit. And I think so. Let's just, timing wise, if there's anything that should take priority.
Sounds good to me. We're actually, that seems to that'll probably line up pretty well with the amount of questions that I have left.
Yeah. What fortunate.
All right. Before I read this question, this one's from Sketch. At the very bottom of it, it just says, "Oh man, I'm fragile too. Don't worry, I also cry a lot." And then the question.
I don't think there's anything. Your personality, like, it's not good to cry a lot. It's not bad to cry a lot. It's not good to always be stoic. It's not bad. It just is. The question is, how do we treat other people, and how do we just give ourselves a bit of a break and make sure that we can just sort of carry on and not, dwell too much. My big thing is, if I get a rejection, which I do, I'm an actor too. So all the rejection that I get on a regular, like a weekly basis, for me, I just, like, if it's a really bad one, if I really was hopeful or something about it and I feel really sad, I'm like, I'm going to feel this today. I'm going to eat my favorite food. I'm going to watch something I really like to watch. And then tomorrow we'll start over. And that's the key. It's like you can feel it just, next day. Okay. Anyway, yeah.
Right on. All right. And
Yeah.
then the question is, out of all the characters that you've written for these books, which one would you like to return to one day and expand on and do more stuff? Like, which is the most intriguing to you?
Oh man. I don't know. Um, it would have been Dot before probably Fade to Black. I mean, there is like, there's some years in there that would be interesting to just see, I think. Um, I don't know. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I actually don't know. And I feel like it'll take us the next 20 minutes for me to think about it. Um, I just, I don't know. See, I thought I had something, but I don't. I'm so sorry. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I think maybe Dot, maybe. Although I sort of like where things were with Fade to Black. So we'll see. Yeah.
And then this one is from Very Tired or Toby a Crow. And it is, if your characters existed, which one do you think you'd get along with the best? I like that one.
Ooh. All right. Let's see. Going from all right, protagonists from the books. Probably, oh God. Sorry, that was so, oh God. I would probably Rose. Probably. Because I think we'd like have fun. We'd like hang out and have fun. I would love hanging out with Ollie. Like I just think he's awesome. Um, See, okay. I feel like Buddy is so inside himself that I would be so paranoid that I was like, did I say something wrong? Um, Bill, I'd enjoy, but I'd worry that I'd have to sort of make him feel chill. Brant, I don't think I'd get a word in edgewise. Constance would be probably fun to hang out with. I'd probably be, yeah, like but she'd also probably be really busy and not really have time. So that's why I sort of feel like Rose would be, she'd be like, yeah, let's hang out. She would call me. She'd be like, hey, Adrienne, let's go into the city. She would be proactive, which I would really appreciate. So yeah, that's probably of the game characters. I think, like I said, like I think the idea of like just sitting up in the production booth with Norman and and I would enjoy hearing his stories. I think I would like that.
That's so fun. I really like that question.
That's a good question.
All right. And then this one is from Valancala. I'm going to paraphrase this one just a little bit because I know if I ask it outright that you won't be able to answer it. But would you
Okay.
like to write more for Sammy Lawrence?
I mean, I would like to write. I feel like that's a question about the Sammy. Like, do you want to write more Sammy in particular? And I think my answer is, this is going to sound weird, is that I really enjoy writing all of these characters. So I don't think there would be an in particular for Sammy, but I would love to write more, like for all of them. Again, it's one of those like choose your favorite kid questions. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. So yeah, I enjoy, I like all these characters. I like the world, it's fun for me, but it would have to, serve a purpose, right? Like that's the thing with anything with all character choices and stuff, is you have to like, like the same thing, like I said with Rose, it was just like, all right, she's going to be this optimistic character in a horror book. That's sort of an interesting crux to follow, right? That's an interesting sort of um, thought exercise kind of thing. So that's sort of ultimately, but yeah, sure. I mean, all of them. Yeah.
Alrighty. That's a fun one. And now we have Catalyst, who is in chat right now and is generally just very active and cool. We have Catalyst asked, I'd love to know that when it came to Fade to Black, what was the most challenging scene to write, and how did you overcome it?
See, you can tell I'm just thinking most challenging. It's hard to say. I don't know what's I can't say like I get so I'm a very literal person. So I'm like, what is the most? But I think what a challenging scene was the train. I really had this vision of like the train coming and then running for it and then being distracted and then it's not there and this void and you're about to fall into the track. Like I could see it so clearly, but how do you write that and how do you it's not like writing like sometimes writing a jump scare, like how do you write a jump scare? So I've done a few now, but it's like that's so tricksy to do. But this I really wanted the reader to be experiencing that moment with Rose in sort of an immediate way. So that felt like a quite technical, I think. I think that was that was like and just keeping track of everything and what's Archie doing? Where's the train? What's she? Yeah, so I think that was that was I'm not sure it was the most. I don't actually know what the most would be, but that one I do remember being like, I have such a when you have such a vision of what you want. Sometimes you're just writing along and you're like, oh, that's neat, and you sort of see where it plays out. But when you know what you want, sometimes that's the hardest stuff. I think probably a lot of people here can relate, especially I think visual artists, like what it's supposed to look like. I can't. Oh, why is it not working? But I think it came out. I think it worked. I think it did. But it was that took a bit of effort, I guess. Yeah.
I remember that scene sent chills down my spine because I had just figured out about the Silver Lane in Dark Revival when the spooky train goes by. Ugh.
That's awesome. That makes me so happy.
Cool. And then the second question from Catalyst is, and prefaced with an apology if it's overstepping, but did you help develop Archie's story as seen in Dark Revival, or was that handed to you to develop him for Fade to Black?
No, it was they complete. That was when I saw that I was like, oh my gosh, that's super horror, bro. Like that's like I didn't I'm as clueless as you guys with that. Thought that was really really cool. I was very struck by that, and because we were leaning into sort of the gentleness of like I think you know what I mean with this book, just because that's also where the second game like you're in the gent factory for like a bunch of it, right? So so I was really that was a focus of the book, and then with the Archie it just made so much sense because it's he's talking all about the testing and the idea again that you're taking desperate people. Yeah, he might have been in prison or whatever, but like taking these, he served his time. He's not sort of desperate people who need money, and you're doing things to them. I was like, well, that's not right. So I was quite inspired by Archie, and then obviously when I put everything together, I had to be like, do you like this line we're going with, Archie? And they were like, yeah, amazing. So it's Archie is a theMeatly them creation entirely, and I sort of expanded on it because I found what they did very inspiring. If that makes sense.
Right on.
Yeah.
I also was like, oh my god, that's super horror when we saw it.
And I'm like, and I just thought, I thought Super Horror Bro, I did a really great job reading it. Like I was like, I really felt, yeah. I mean, all the people, I thought the voice acting, I think the voice acting in both games, I don't want to just say Dark or Baba, I think the voice acting in general is super, super strong. Sometimes in some games, I find there's like, the voice sort of stays here, it goes up and down a little bit, but the emotion sort of stays here. I just think it's beautifully colored. I think everybody, I've said this on one of the live streams to Erin. I'm like, what she did as Audrey, with it being this very calm sort of what's going on. I mean, she's not always calm, but just you guys know me, the vibe of her voice, right? But so much emotion and feeling. Like she could have stayed here and then gone really scared and then gone back to here, but it's so nuanced, and I just think they do a great job at casting and directing, and the actors do a great job at the acting. So, but yes, I did enjoy Super Horrible reading the Archie stuff.
All right, that is awesome. And then we have another question from. Actually, we have a question from our friend Dandelion, who's in chat right now. I'm not fully sure what this means, but you might. Any plans for a buddy cameo anytime in the future?
Oh, I cannot speak to such thing. I don't. The answer is I don't know. That sounded way more mysterious than.
All right, and then the other question from Dandelion, I'll don't worry, Sketch. I'll go back to yours. But are there any side characters or minor characters? I feel like I already asked this. Did I already ask this? Are there any side characters or minor characters from the previous books that you'd like to expand upon?
Yeah, we sort
You
of
did.
already.
All right,
Yeah,
then we'll go up
I
to
think
this one.
so.
And Sketch asks, have you ever pulled an all-nighter in favor of writing any of the books? Like you're just on a creative high and just can't stop.
Oh, less about a creative high, more about like a deadline. Um, I have very strong memories of Fade to Black. Two. So the first was the getting the draft, just getting it done and off. So normally when you're doing a book, you write your book, maybe you have a deadline that you're freaking out about, but you send it to your editor and then your editor looks at it and gets it back to you, right? But for this, the timing, you have to also plan for the developers. So you have your editor and the developer. So like you have to just have extra time for everybody's voices, right? To be heard. So I remember writing till trying to get it done and off because the deadline, and it was a strict deadline. It was this one. Fade to Black was a very fast turnaround. So and I was like, okay, till it wasn't an all night. It was probably like till 2 a.m. And then I sent it off. And I was like, oh my God, I was shaking because like you're just staring. I'm sure you guys have had, you're like, you're just staring and like writing and like your whole body is tense. And also because I write basically chronologically. So I've just gone through some like major climactic action. So like my heart is, so I'm all, I sent it off and I was all shaky. I may have had a whiskey. I definitely watched something. I might watch like The Office or something just to calm down afterwards. And then I don't want this to sound like there's like this crazy the public, like my editors, it's just it's a deadline and you're like, okay, gotta finish. And then the one of the first rounds of edits I actually came up against a similar, and so I actually ended up, because I'm not good at all-nighters. I don't know, it spooks me. I think some people are really good at it, but when I'm awake and nobody else in the world is awake, for me, I'm like, well, I am utterly and completely alone. And I hate feeling like that. Some people go, ooh, I'm completely and utterly alone. It's amazing. I know my husband, he used to, I think probably more in his 20s, not so much anymore, used to just love to go out for a walk at like 3, 4 in the morning. I'm like, no, that makes me feel so lonely. So I'm not great at all-nighters is my point. So I stay up as late as I can, then I'll go to bed and wake up really early. So it's, like kind of like you're doing one. And I did that with I think the first round of edits. I got as much as I could, but it was still due, I don't know, maybe noon the next day. So I had the computer next to my bed, my laptop, and I went to bed, and then I woke up first thing and I just sort of reached over and I grabbed my laptop and I just put it like on me as I'm lying in bed, and I opened it up and I just got back and like spent like 6 hours doing that. I don't really know why writing. I'd like to think that there are some authors out there who time things out beautifully and they're not like in this rushing to like do the thing. But I think most writers invariably we're coming up against deadlines. Like even no matter how well we plan things out, you always come up against a deadline for some reason. So yes, so the answer is sort of yes, not a technical all-nighter, but I've definitely gone very late. And it's honestly like finishing a book at any point, but there is something about finishing a book late at night when you've finished it and you've sent it off and like you're buzzing and you're like your whole like your hands are like actually doing this and you're like, it's like pure adrenaline. It's like really cool. It's a really incredible feeling. And you live in that for a while because immediately after that feeling goes away, the self-doubt. You're like, oh no, was that any good? Is my editor going to be like, what is this? What is this nonsense? but it's a pretty good high to go after.
Call it Adrienne.
That's good.
All right, and then we're nearing the end of my list here. We've got another one
Excellent.
from Raven, which is: did you know that in Bendy and the Dark Revival, in the book The Mug and the Maiden, that it seems to reflect some of the scenes in the novels? Or is it vice versa, Raven? I actually didn't know that.
I actually don't know. I don't know whether there's any intent. I don't know. I'm sorry. Once in a blue moon, I have the short answer, which is.
Hang on, Raven's typing to clarify.
Oh, jeez. Sorry, did you ask me a question or?
No, I'm waiting on Raven to seeming to
Oh, I
clarify
see.
or
I see.
something.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're
As
right.
long as I'm not doing something wrong.
Oh my god, no! This has been as we near the end. This has been so cool.
For me.
I'm so glad
And I
I
know I
got to
can't
host
answer
it.
anything, but I try.
Yeah, it's like my favorite author, and I'm sat here hosting an AMA for her. Like what? That's
You are
crazy.
too amazing. I'm just so impressed that all this organization and stuff. I This is really, really cool. And the thing you guys put together when the book came out, I totally cried.
Oh,
Like good tears. Like I like when I say I cry easily, I cry like all the feelings. So it was amazing. And I found a way to download it so that I have it on my computer. I was like, how do we download a video from Twitter? Um, and I figured it out pretty quick actually, because I have really good Google Foo, and the Google Foo key is to not second guess Google. Like, just ask what you want to ask. Don't try to make it easier. If you just ask hey, there's me and there's Norman. Okay. My dream, sitting up in the booth. I don't know if any of you guys are techies, but being up in a lighting booth. I know it's a projection booth. I know it's not technically um, a lighting booth, but the booth
similarities.
is really fun and
No,
yeah,
that's
no, yeah, no, I know that. Sorry, Raven, I do know what you're referring to. I just don't know. I know nothing. I don't know about its genesis or what it. But I do know it. I know what you're talking about, but I don't really have an answer for you. Sorry, it's very unsatisfying. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
all right.
But nice screen cap. Um, well done. Yeah, sir, are there other because we're getting close. I just want to make sure.
We can do. I do. Does anyone have any last minute quick questions?
Yeah, okay. All right, Juju has one more question.
All right. Let's see what you got, Juju.
I'm figuring this thingy out.
Yeah,
But now I have to go back and look at all the pictures. This is very exciting. I'm just watching the three dots. Oh, many people are typing.
moment of
Oh my gosh.
anticipation.
It's very Rocky Horror. Anticip. Oh yeah. I could show you the coat again. I'll put it on again.
I'm so jealous.
Eh? Ta-da! Bendy.
Oh, there's Juju's question. Why
There
is
we
the
go.
Ink Demon in the Dreams Come to Life graphic novel different? Are you talking about the cover?
I mean, that's the only art that's I don't know. I'm sorry. When it comes to graphic novel stuff, I wish I know nothing. I don't know. um
All right.
I like sketches because he's peak, as that's a good answer. He is peak. I feel like you guys have all taught me what peak is. It's I was like, I love it. It's such a useful word. Yeah.
Now they're all going rah. That's
Oh
weird.
my goodness, everybody's having peak. Can we see Jack Fain? Maybe. We was it? I put him in Illusion of Living, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's right. Yeah,
Yeah, he's a
I
peak with
enjoy it.
Sammy.
yeah. I really enjoy it. I like their dynamic too, because Jack is obviously the showman, right? And Sammy is he's like, we'll do it, but you're going to talk to everybody, kind of thing. Um, so I really, yeah, I really enjoyed writing that whole scene, and the scene between Sammy and Joey as well. Yeah,
Very fun.
I'm not sure if there any other questions. I see a debate happening, but are there any other
Any last minute? We got
A
1 minute
cute
left.
jacket, guys. I'm just gonna say.
Any big finale last questions? Who knows? No? I think that went very
Okay,
well.
okay, yeah, okay, but I just want to say Maria just did that thing that I'm saying don't do. Also, RIP, our character models. It's like, no, 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 guys, I'm serious when it comes. Like, please don't let any designs that may come out in the graphic novel affect any of your own personal designs. Like, no, let's enjoy. You know, everybody can coexist, and especially with fandom, like it's just you just have fun and still express yourself. I hate when I see that, it makes me sad because it's like, no, 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 you guys are so creative. Your art, again, I just did a whole spiel about how I cannot draw, so your art impresses me beyond. And I want you guys to feel inspired and excited, and not feel demoralized at all by this. Like I hope you see things in the graphic novel, and if you don't like it, you're like, oh, that's cool, but I'm going to keep going with my design. Or maybe you'll see something that inspires you, or maybe you'll be like, oh, that doesn't inspire me, but that makes me think about this. That makes me think about this. That I just don't worry. Oh wait, here's one question: what do you usually hope to achieve whenever you're writing a new book? To any of the books that I write, so not just the Bendy stuff. Oh boy, that's actually a really big question, but it's a good question. I think first and foremost, it's just sort of like, I hope I write another book. Like, I hope I get through to the end and make it out in one piece somewhat. I think in more esoteric sort of way, I'm really interested in how people think and communicate. And I generally, even if the book is sort of dark or, horror or anything, I really want people to sort of, I don't know, be inspired to sort of I don't know, to not to step up. That sounds weird, but like sometimes making the right choice is a hard thing to do, and sometimes it's not obvious, and sometimes life is messy. And I guess I just hope that ultimately the stories and the books and the people, they come to a place where they're like, it's worth putting in the effort. I guess it's worth trying to work on yourself and to help others and to do things. And that sounds really cheesy. But I just genuinely, this is maybe is like, this is the rose in me. I genuinely like people, and not everyone, I guess not everyone in the world is fantastic, but I generally think the majority of us are just trying to figure stuff out and get through life. And we're just trying our best. And I think if we can see other people's perspectives in a book, if we can understand how other people think, or if we can just sort of see ourselves a bit and see that person's struggle and figure their way through, that makes me happy. And I guess I kind of want people to feel a little inspired. It sounds so big. And maybe not so much in the Bendy books, because they're more sort of serious horror, but I do really like to make people laugh. Like, I have my Explorers, I guess that's the audiobook for the first Explorers, but like I really, really, really like to make people laugh, but in general make people feel things. Because I think emotions are very important. And sometimes, we try to hide them, or we try to, I don't know, I think a safe outlet for emotions is very important. So yeah, wow, I just got a little sentimental and stuff there. But yeah, I think ultimately I just want people, I don't know, to feel maybe less alone, or just to feel like, yeah, there's stuff we could do. I see one question from Kat, and then I should probably go soon. Oh no, not Kat, sorry, Henry. Since the books all take place before the games and you're starting and close on the day of the first game. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the very annoying. I don't know. I there is, I think there's a little bit of information in the second game that gives you a sense of of what happens, but he's changed, right, between the first game and the second game, right? So I think there's stuff, but again, that's more on the Meatly side. That's sort of information so that I don't really have, and I don't know, uh, unfortunately, right now. Sorry. What an annoying answer. All right, there's one more question. I'm always like this when I do the Q&As, like one more. We'll just say one more question if one pops up. Did Evan ever wear the glasses? Yes, I have to assume that he must have. Yes, I right, like I'm realizing now, but like, no, he has to be. Yes, I wrote the book, so you would think I would have a more. I'm like, no, because he's clearly knows what they do. And I don't think that's something you can explain. I think it's something. And now I see the follow up. Does he see Ben? I'm like that. I don't know. I don't know what he sees. I don't know what. Yeah, what? Yeah, because I think it's all sort of a personal thing. I think, yeah, maybe if there are like any extra that you guys think about, you can maybe send my way and I can answer them. I could, send them to Joe or something like that. But we did 2 whole hours and I still feel energized. And I'm sort of like, let's just go for a third. No, I have to go do chores. I have to be a responsible adult.
Can we get a round of applause for Adrienne Kress
Okay, you can
in
applaud
the
applaud
chat?
me, I guess.
Whee!
Me. But I want to applaud you guys. I am so grateful to all of you. And Joe is like it's amazing. This is so incredible and incredible, right? No, this is great. And I've learned how to use a little bit of Discord, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm not like I'm not told that. I didn't know how to do some stuff. But no, guys, you guys are amazing. And I just want you guys to not, I just want you guys to be happy and enjoy. I guess the point is enjoy Bendy, like enjoy and whatever other fandoms, like let that be a joy for you. Like I hate how sometimes, we all trust me as I have my own we can go slightly too far sometimes. So just feel the joy and the love and that be the thing that inspires you and stuff. Yay, you guys are all so nice. But now, okay, so I would like to go through this at some point, look at all the art. Will this vanish if I leave?
I
This
don't think so, but
mess.
on the off chance it does, I'll scroll up and collect everything. And if it's not there, then we do have the art department channel, which has a whole ton of artwork in it.
Oh, amazing. So I can sneak in and,
Yeah.
and spy. I am scrolling a little bit right now, but I should probably. There's so much cool stuff, guys. Like I've seen a bunch, like you guys send me stuff on Twitter and stuff that I see. But there's so much more here. Like, you guys are
Yeah,
so good.
there's a whole ton of stuff. Thank you, Kat.
Yeah, it's amazing. This is great. Sorry. Okay. I really be responsible. Okay, I'm going. All right. Yes, if you could, yeah, because I have to go. If you could maybe, I don't know, find a way to grab the art or something. I
Yeah,
don't know
absolutely.
if that's doable. If that's a lot of work for you. This is what's crazy is this is just like, a fun thing. This isn't even like a job for you. This is very kind. You are very
Oh,
kind.
thank you so
And you
much.
guys are all
It's not
amazing.
not all that.
No, no, no. See, this is what it feels like. This is when people say you're like, okay, cool, cool. Moving on to somebody else now. Yeah, so I don't really fully know how, but there's the stream happening tomorrow, the playthrough that uh oh, what's
Oh
his
yeah,
name?
that Inky News is doing that.
Yeah,
That'll be fun.
that is doing. I might pop. I just really to watch. Just a little bit there. Um, but it was very nice to talk to everybody. And thank you. And I guess I'll just, I guess I'll just like quit or what? Is that how I leave?
Yeah, there's like a
I
disconnect
don't
button.
want to though. I just want to hang out with you guys. I'm just realizing it's 4 o'clock and I have so many things I have to do. And be a responsible person. Okay, thank you all very, very much. This was a lot of fun. I apologize for some of the I don't know questions because they were sometimes I just don't know. And hopefully I didn't talk too much or go off tangent too much either. Anyway, all right. I will see you guys hopefully, I don't know, We can do it again sometime. I don't know. All right. Thank you all again, and thank you, Joe.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
Bye. That was awesome. Entire time because that is so cool. I'm off. If you sent any art in here, send it to me. I'll put it in like an archive. If this, this channel shouldn't get ditched, but on the off chance that it does, you know what I mean. You can send it through DMs. You can put it in the art department channel. Whatever you'd like. Thank you for thanking me. It really wasn't that much work. I am gonna go now very quickly. Very quick. I gotta drink water. Don't let Thank Demon bite. Thank Demon can't bite me. I'm too cool. I'll be floating around on Discord and whatnot. All right.